Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, tuning in from London, UK, here on Wednesdays with EWAT. We are looking at a lesson 61. I hope if you're with me, you can join me as we speak. It's 3 p.m. and it's the British summertime now. We've gone into the British summertime, so it's 1 hour ahead of GMT. I hope you're my regulars are tuning in. Please let me know where if you're in. Say hi so I know who's in. I can see Rosie is watching and I can see some people coming in, so that'd be great. So before we start, I want to wish you all a happy Easter. I hope you had a good happy Easter, happy Passover if you're Jewish, and you're probably still in the middle of Passover, really. Maybe you're taking a break, but whatever it is, I'm really glad to see you here on lesson 61 of Wednesdays with EWAT. We have a jam-packed session today, jam-packed lesson this week, and so we better not delay, or I better not delay in talking to you and sharing with you all the different tidbits I have for you today. But first of all, before we start, I have two very important announcements to make. Now, lots of things are changing here. So first of all, I have just launched my exclusive Facebook group known as the EWAT Club. And this is an exclusive club for business professionals like yourself who want to engage in a community, who want to engage and participate in a conversation much more meaningfully than you can in a page on a Facebook page. So I've just launched that, and it's a closed group, and I'd love it if you could join. All you have to do is ask to join, answer some questions, and if you follow the questions and you follow have a look at the description, see what the group is all about, then that it would be wonderful to have you join. Now, why am I mentioning it here on Wednesdays with EWAT is for those of you who love my Wednesdays with EWAT sessions, my live sessions, and I thank you for all of you who regularly tune in to my sessions. I want to say to you that if you want to continue watching the live sessions, the live stream, then you are going to have to join the EWAT Club, because from the next lesson, which will be lesson 62, I will be streaming live the Wednesdays with EWAT sessions on the EWAT Club. Don't worry, you will still get a copy of the recording of the sessions here on the Facebook page, English with a Twist. But if you want to engage in the chat and watch me live, then it's going to be in the closed group of the EWAT Club. So don't delay, do join, and because that group is going to be wonderful, because I'm going to be looking at developing lots of challenges, asking you questions through polls, and that's the way we're going to be engaging. There are also going to be some fellow teachers joining as collaborators, and it's a place where I want you to feel safe to share your thoughts, share your aspirations, share your fears and your doubts about how you communicate in English. And the conversation is there to empower you in becoming more confident and feeling in control when it comes to communicating in business with English. Hi Keiko, for example, Keiko and Rosie, I hope you joined the EWAT Club. Tiziana, lovely to see you here. Yes, you are one of our fellow EWAT clubbers, and as I say, the live sessions will be going onto the EWAT Club. That will be from the 18th of April, so I will let you know in plenty of time. So you will have seen a notice on my EWAT page, the English with a Twist Facebook page, to share with you details about the EWAT Club. So that is a closed group, so it's not open to everyone. I want to make it exclusive to business professionals. Hi Arson, lovely to see you here. So as you join, as I say, do let me know if you're coming in. Thank you so much to all my regulars. I'm always very, very honored and privileged that you make the time to join me in the sessions. Now, if of course you haven't joined my email list and you want to subscribe to my email list, then don't forget to go onto englishwithatwist.com and subscribe, because you will also get my audio blogs every week, which are 3 weekly lessons plus a newsletter at the end of each month. And so do join that, and or join the EWAT club. You know, why not do both? Because of course in the EWAT club, that's where you're going to be able to have lots of conversation and engage. Hi Alethea, lovely to see you. Hello Argentina. Hi Shank, I can see you. Path, good afternoon. Lovely to see you all. You're probably getting notifications a bit later, so you know, who knows. But as I was saying, I will be sending you adding more information about the EWAT club, so you know you've got the next few weeks to join. You can join anytime really, but as I say, if you want to interact with me live, then it's going to be the EWAT club from the next lesson onwards. Otherwise, you'll always get the recording here on English with a Twist page. Moriguchi, how are you? Lovely to see you here. Lovely to see all my regulars coming through slowly but surely. Okay, new month, new theme. So what are we talking about? You may have noticed in the notification I sent you yesterday that April, the new theme for April, is all about business writing. And in this month, I am going to be sharing with you ways and I'm going to share with you what you need to develop your writing skills in English. And I will be sharing a few posts, and I also have a guest blogger who'll be appearing on my audio blog, sharing with you her tips on how you can develop. If you're in my EWAT club, you will also see a lot more there, where I'll be engaging a lot more with the EWAT clubbers on developing your writing skills. So, you know, so if you are someone who needs to write in English because of your work, and let's face it, most of us as business professionals need to do some form of writing. If you're interacting in English for work, which is hopefully why you're here, then you will be involved with either writing emails or writing memos. Perhaps you have to even submit proposals, or maybe you're even preparing a resume or a CV, or writing a LinkedIn profile. You know, there's so many things that you could be doing where writing is necessary. Now, writing in your own native language, you know, it maybe takes you 5 minutes to write an email, depending on how complex the email is, or to 30 to 45 minutes writing about a sales proposal, a business proposal, whatever you need to do, or maybe a memo where you are having to share information, or you know, you're asking for a reaction from your reader. And if it's in your native language, you know, that takes some thought and you'll do it. Now, move it into English, and suddenly I know from a lot of my clients that I work with, you know, you get this feeling of suddenly the focus is on what grammar tenses am I using? Am I using the right tense? Am I using the right vocabulary? And suddenly the concerns are much more focused on the language than the actual message. And in today's class, I really want to focus on the fact that that should be the last thing. The language, the tenses, the words should not be your main focus. Your main focus should always still be about your message. So today, what I want to do is, and why do I say that? Why is the structure important? A structure is very important because it gives you clarity. Structure allows you to think much more clearly. And if you're able to think more clearly, you're able to write more clearly. And this is very, very important. Clear writing equals clear thinking. And, you know, people, you know, you could have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't communicate them clearly to your reader, to your audience, then it's going to be lost. Your great ideas are going to be lost. So you need to have a way of thinking clearly. Say, for example, you're writing your CV out, or you're even preparing to write about, you know, telling your story about an interview. Tiziana, you just said structure is important. It is very important because because if you start writing as you're thinking, you are going to have a lot of clutter in your mind. You can't think clearly. So what I'm going to do today in this class, I shared with you a post yesterday from Harvard Business Review about business writing, and I thought it was a very interesting article. And I thought, in case for those of you who didn't get a chance to read it, I wanted to go through with you and share my thoughts when I was reading this post, because I thought it was very, very useful. Now, Harvard Business Review, of course, you'll be listening to this and thinking, Harvard Business Review, Shanti, I mean, honestly, that, you know, we're talking high-end language, but we're not, because the advice and the tips they're sharing applies to all of us, whether we are proficient users of English or whether you don't feel as proficient as you'd like to be. So it, you know, so the advice still applies whatever level you are at, right? Now, remember that for us here at English with a Twist and the EWAT Club, we're talking about, I'm looking at, I hope you're all in very strong intermediate, upper intermediate to advanced level. So, you know, that's where you are looking at communicating. Hi, Rafa, lovely to see you. Good afternoon. So, as Tatiana says, structure is very important. So here we go. So some people will say, well, you know, I'm not a really good writer, I can't write and whatever. And of course, according to the Harvard Business Review, immediately said to us that everyone has the capacity to improve our writing. We all have that. And I'll be the first person to admit that, because I come from a business sales background. My background in finance was always in investment sales. So my focus was always on spoken English. I was talking to my clients, I met my clients, I gave presentations. I didn't necessarily write. My writing I got thrown into the world of writing through my blog. And that's when, of course, I changed career. And I remember the time before, when I was in business, having to write would really scare me, because it made me have to think really hard and have to structure. And I really fought against that. I really didn't want to. But of course, I didn't need to write in my work, because my work was predominantly sales, but sales, face-to-face sales, as opposed to writing. But if your job requires that, then you need to write. And my writing improved with blogging. And I remember when I first started blogging, I just didn't know how to start and what I had to do. But of course, over time, my writing has improved. And my love for writing, I mean, I hated writing once. Now I love it. It's not easy. You have to think a lot. You're constantly having to think about your audience. But it has. So I completely agree with what the Harvard Business Review article says, that everyone has the capacity to improve, including you, who you might think is not a proficient speaker in English. So I would challenge that view if you have that in your mind. So here are the tips. If you didn't get a chance to read about it, then read the article. Then let me share with you what the article says. So first of all, what the article first says is to think before you write. Sounds obvious, doesn't it? And I really agree. You need to think before you write. Every time I'm about to write a blog, every time I write an email to a client, to a potential client, every time someone sends me a message through Facebook, every time I'm writing something on my social media, every time I'm sharing information with yourselves, I think first before I write. I have to, because I want my message to count. I want my message to be important. If I wasn't interested in what my message meant, then I wouldn't bother. I would just write whatever. But that's not the point, isn't it? We want our message to count. We want our reader to either do something or know something. So if you're thinking about what is the purpose of my writing, what is the outcome I want? So if it is about informing your client, persuading your client, sharing information, or getting a reaction from your client, you need to think hard first before you put pen to paper or hand to keyboard. So you really need to think hard. And so don't work out your thoughts as you write, because that would end up being very less structured. You start repeating yourself, because as we think, we start thinking and then we go off into one area, and it just kind of goes all over the place, because that's how our thoughts are. Our thoughts go all over the place. So you can't do that. You need to structure it. So, maybe sketch an outline of what you're trying to say. So ask yourself, what is your audience? Think of your audience, because here, of course, the audience is always important. Your reader is number one. So ask yourself, what does my audience need to know? Or what do they need to think? And if you think that's not clear from your writing, maybe you were too quick, then you need to restart and do it again. So think before you write. Very important. The next point that the article shares with you is to be direct. Now, I'm not talking about being direct as in abrupt or rude. And here we talk about different cultural differences, or being, very direct in terms of asking someone to do something and not being polite. Here it's about making sure your message appears very early on in your writing. And I think here what they're doing is they're comparing academic writing. When we write academically, we are creating an argument, we are creating a school of thought, a chain of thought. And often the message, the main message we want to share ends up in the middle of our writing. Now in business, if you imagine how many emails you receive, you don't have time. You need to get to the point immediately. So you need to make your main points appear in the first paragraph or 2 paragraphs of whatever you're writing, whether it's a memo, if it's a proposal, or an email. So if it's an email, try and make it very obvious. Put it into your subject line, put it at the beginning of it, so that your reader scans immediately and says, right, I'll say, now I know what this email is about, let me continue. So make your point straight away. Be direct. Don't, try and build a story. No, you're not trying to do that. You also want to save your reader time. Yeah, time is precious here. So state that issue, and if you're writing longer things, then state the issue and propose a solution. So maybe there's a problem, propose a solution, and then you can continue. So then you're giving them the idea. So be direct. Is everyone okay with this? I'm not seeing very, are you okay? Please give me thumbs up. Does this all make sense? So I just want you to make sure that you're following me on this, okay? Right, number 3, the point that they make, that's the third point they make, is to cut the fat. Cut the fat. I like that idiomatic expression. In other words, be concise. Imagine, right, you've got a piece of meat, you want to cut the fat. You want the main bit. You don't want a lot of stuff. So be concise. Use fewer words. So I'm sharing a post on Friday, my weekly lesson, which will be about using fewer words, trying to be concise. Conciseness is so important in writing, especially business writing. If you use too many words, very long sentences, you are verbose. In other words, too many words, your reader will eventually lose interest. Unfortunately now we don't have very long attention spans. If you imagine we are the generation of tweets, we're the generation of news bulletins, we are the generation of looking at social media posts. So if you don't capture the person's attention fairly quickly with concise words, with plain English, uncomplicated English, then you will lose them. So be concise. So the more verbose you are, the more words you use, the less people will read. Use more action words and phrases. Don't use so many noun phrases. This is an issue I have a lot with some of my clients, particularly, Tiziana, I'm sure you will agree, you know, Italian speakers, French speakers, and also I think Spanish speakers, the writing style in different languages where we're talking about more formal language tends to be longer sentences, more words. So it's difficult. So I always try, and with a lot of noun phrases. So noun phrases with, you know, production. So instead of saying, provide protection to, why don't you just say protect? So use more verbs. Don't use so many nouns, because nouns make a sentence more complex. So you want to keep it simple. Use the active voice, use active verbs. So that's what you want to do. So cut the fat, fewer words. Don't use due to, say because. You know, just you know, there are lots of things, and there are lots of tips I can share with you later. Use contractions. You know, contrary to what many people think, is that they think that, well, if I'm writing emails, if I'm writing a proposal, I need to always have the full words. You don't have to. Not anymore. Not in business writing. It's acceptable to have contractions. So using the apostrophe S for it, don't, you know, don't worry. You're not in academia. You're not writing academic English. You're writing business English. And it is now very acceptable, particularly if you are sharing your writing electronically through email, or you're sending an attachment to people, which is what most of us do anyway. So there is much more acceptance of contractions. So do use them. Don't feel, that would look bad for you. Okay, number 4, and I think this is fairly obvious, is something that I've always said to clients, is to avoid jargon. Okay, avoid your jargon. Unless, of course, your audience is expecting it. Now, jargon are all those buzzwords that often are meaningless. Now, I have seen a lot of learners use jargon because they think, well, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try it out. See, you learn something, you see something, yeah, I like it. Now, unless you know how to use it, you could be at risk of confusing your reader. So don't use jargon unless you know them really well, or unless you know that your readers know all about it. So avoid it. And some people like to use complex words, or, they think the more complex the word is, the more sophisticated the word is, the more intelligent they sound. No, it doesn't. Because if your reader is going to end up not understanding what you've written, then that's not terribly clever. You haven't achieved what you meant to achieve. Right? If all I'm showing, or if I'm just telling you, look how clever I am, I can come up with this wonderful word, and my reader does not understand the word, then what does that say? That says that, well, you're not very good because you weren't able to read me. Yeah, so it's not about you, it's about your reader. So always put yourself in your reader's shoes to understand, will they understand? Am I being clear enough? Because if I want them to take action, if I want them to know something, and it's important that they do, it's up to me to make it as clear as possible, as easy as possible to understand, and as concise as possible, because time is money. So always remember that, always look at that and think, yeah, have I said enough? Have I not said enough? Do they need more information to act on this? So avoid it, because, and also a lot of jargon doesn't actually make you look professional. It just makes you look like you're someone who's just testing all these words. Yeah, so be very careful. And also those buzzwords, those business buzzwords that people like to use. Even native speakers of English, even proficient users of English, they'll use buzzwords like paradigm shift. I often see that word and I think, what does it actually mean? And when you ask someone, what does it mean? You know, you get people going, right, and if you cannot explain the words that you've used in your writing, don't use it. Because if you can't explain it, the other person's not going to be able to understand it. Yeah, so only use language that you know and you know well. If you need to learn about it, fine, go learn. Get yourself a good dictionary and do that. Okay, so where are we? Number 5, and I think this is a really good tip. They say here, read what you write. How many of us in the busyness that we are in our world, we very rarely reread what we write? And here they say, read out loud what you have written. So that's a very good point. In fact, I've noticed that as I was reading this, I thought to myself, yeah, that's so true. Now, with my weekly blogs, and if those of you who are subscribed to English with a Twist, you will know that I record the blog post every week. So I have then an audio recording attached to it. And it's been really an eye-opener, because I will write it and I've set it up, I've put it onto the post, and I'm ready to publish. Then I do the recording. And as I'm reading out, I notice then there could be mistakes I've made, or what I'm saying doesn't actually flow, or it is a bit confusing. Although in my mind it sounded clear, it sounded okay. But when I read it out to myself and then maybe I listen back, I think, no, that doesn't make sense. So if it doesn't make sense to me, it's not going to make sense to the other person. And it happens to me often, because what you're doing is you're so busy thinking about something, you don't check yourself. So if your piece of writing is important, and then take the time to do that, read it out, and record yourself. Most of us have smartphones, you can record yourself reading it out. So that reading out also allows you to listen to yourself and then notice whether it flows, your message makes sense. And also it allows you to pick any mistakes, any gaps. Because I've noticed sometimes I've made grammar mistakes. Yep, I make my grammar mistakes like all of us do. Spelling mistakes, or my subject verb tense didn't work out. Now, often when we speak out loud, it might not sound right. And this is where I always say to clients, you know, you probably intuitively know what sounds right. You might not see it when you're writing, but it sounds. So then you think, okay, that didn't sound right. There's a S missing, or there's something missing here. I need to add it. And I've always noticed that with my clients where I've recorded my clients in my one-to-one sessions, and they listen back to themselves and they will auto-correct themselves, because passively you know the language, you know what you're trying to say, but you know, it gets overlooked, you forget it. So that's a great tip for you to do. Read out loud and listen back to yourself. And I think that's brilliant. Now, if you're writing and you, for example, work with colleagues and co-workers who have a better writing style, or you appreciate their style and you really like the way they write, ask for feedback. If it's an important piece that you've got to write, maybe it's a key proposal, it's an important memo, or it's an important email, and you want to make sure it's right, ask for feedback. Don't be embarrassed to ask a colleague who you trust. Could say, could you please read what I've written? Does it look good? So make a draft of it and ask them to just check it for you. You know, just say, does this read well? Can you follow my thoughts? Can you understand what I'm trying to say? You're not necessarily looking at grammar and spelling, because you can do a spell checker. You can check all that stuff. But you want to make sure that your structure flows, your thought, your thought process flows. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Because often when I write something, you're so tuned, you know, that's why good writers good, any author has an editor. An editor will reread something and they'll go, well, did you mean this? Did you mean that? And then you look back and you go, oh gosh, I thought I was clear, but clearly not. I missed something. Yeah, I'm not suggesting you do this for every email that you write, but where it is important. So you need to then get into that habit of doing that. Even if you want to practice, then, get into your practice habit, then get someone to do, edit it for you or just look at it. But from a structural point of view, you don't want them, edit, checking your grammar every single minute, because that would be very soul destroying, I can promise you. Right, so there you go. So read out loud and ask for feedback. I think those are two very important tips that the Harvard Business Review post article shared. Now, they said in this article that writing is a skill that every one of us has a capacity to improve. And as a skill, like all skills need practice. You want to learn the piano, you want to learn the guitar, you want to learn a language, the only way we're going to improve and that we're going to master a skill is by practicing. And so if you want to develop, you want to improve your writing, your business writing, you need to write. Yeah, no amount of even listening to me on this video, reading my blog posts, anything like that is going to be enough. You need to put it all into practice. Yeah, that's why, for example, in this EWAT club that I've got now, I'm going to be introducing challenges because I want you to put into practice what I share with you. Tips are no good if you don't then try them yourselves. So how can you practice? And here I think one of the things that Harvard Business Review says is to practice every day. Okay, now how are you going to put that? What can you do to practice every day? Now, one of the things some of my clients say to me is, yes, how do I? I have had a number of clients recently on one-to-one sessions asking me, I need to improve my presentation technique or to write presentations and proposals, and what do I have to do? Now, and one of the key things I always say to them is read well-written material in your sector. If you're in a particular sector, say for example, change management or whatever sector you're in, read good material in English. Yeah, now there could be magazines, there could be blog posts, there could be online articles, there could be publications that are specific to your sector. Read them, read well-written material, but read it with a view of looking at the format, looking at the style, looking at the words they use, looking at the sentence structure and the flow. How do they develop the concept? How do they look at that? Now, this takes a lot of work, and I'm not suggesting it's going to happen overnight, but start that reading, because by reading more focused reading, if you need to practice your business writing, reading a novel is not going to help you. It is going to be fantastic to develop, of course, your English, wonderful, but if you need to focus on your business writing, you need to read material that is focused on business writing. So take that time out, focus on that if that is your goal. Work on that, look at that. Now, buy yourself a good monolingual dictionary. I use Macmillan English Dictionary, but there is Oxford, there is Cambridge. Advanced learners, you don't have to be an advanced learner to benefit from an advanced learner's dictionary. A monolingual dictionary will have in the middle, for example, here in the Macmillan Dictionary, it gives me how to improve my writing skills. And it gives you lots of ways, lots of techniques. It gives you how to give your opinion clearly, for example, linking cause and effect. So it gives you a lot of useful ideas. And you have a dictionary with you, because to, make sure that it's right. So always look at that. If you work with good English writers, i.e. writers who write well in English, and you like your colleagues' writing, then follow what they do. Look at that and try and mimic how they write. You know, maybe you look at that and you go, I like that. Now I'm going to try and copy that way. So, you know, really analyze what they do and try and do it yourselves. So develop a technique, develop a habit, like a journaling habit perhaps. Set up a reference file where you are, for example, collecting material, looking at what you like. You know, you see a good piece of writing, maybe analyze it, make a note of, you know, and write what you like about that writing. You know, what are the words they use that you think, I like those words, I want to use those words. Great. But then you need to try and use them in the same way as you've seen them. And again here, feedback is important. So then being able to ask for feedback. If you can't get it from co-workers, then get a coach. Get someone who's going to help you, mentor you to work on that, to improve your writing. You know, that you can do a certain amount on by yourself, and then maybe if you need someone to monitor and check your writing, then get yourself a coach, get yourself a mentor just to help you. But the initial part is just become more aware of good English writing, good business writing in English in your sector. So keep it simple, keep it focused. Don't try and write different things if you don't actually need it at the beginning. Start with what you need most. Remember the 80-20 rule that I always tell you. Work on the 20% that you need 80% of the time. Yeah, then you can gradually build on it. So that's what I would suggest you do. So looking at your co-workers, looking looking at other people and checking what they're doing, observing what they say, and try and do it yourself. So write paragraphs, write sentences, you know, and think about what it is you want to say. So if you've got to write a memo, so imagine you've got to write a memo. So this is what I'm going to be doing in the EWAT Club. I will set some challenges for you. So for writing, and, you know, join it, and then we can look at how you can develop your writing that way. So I'm just going to stop to have a sip of water. Hello, Susan. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining. So there are different various ways that you can do that. Now, there are some, and so there were also some people who, you know, how they developed in this article. It also gave you 2 case studies in this Harvard Business Review article about, you know, study good writing. So that was one of the tips, study good writing. So recently I've been doing a lot of that. I've been reading a lot of good blog posts. I read other people's writing, and it allows me to get inspiration. And I keep that. And now a tool that you can use is, you know, if you see good posts, if you use a tool like Evernote or even Google Docs, you know, just, you know, develop a reference point and pull together all these useful articles you like, and maybe highlight them, highlight paragraphs or sentence structures that you like, and then try and incorporate them in your writing. Now, you might not necessarily get it right the first time, and as I say, so maybe you want to get someone to give you some feedback and go, yeah, I like the way you did that. Perhaps you want to use it in this way, but you're constantly developing it. You know, it's only by doing that we're going to be better, right? So we're going to make mistakes. We're going to find it really difficult at the beginning, but you've got to persevere. And so that's what I want to encourage you to do. And this Harvard Business Review article I thought was very, very illuminating, because, you know, although you think Harvard Business Review applies to advanced learners, native speakers of English, but, you know, there are a lot of native speakers of English, or proficient users, as I like to say, who are not necessarily good at communicating their message in writing. They still need to develop that technique. So also you can develop that technique, and it doesn't mean having sophisticated language. It means plain, uncomplicated English, and that is very important. Simple English does not mean simplistic. It doesn't mean being, you know, oh, well, because I can't come up with a better word. No, you can have some, you know, the simple language is what you need, because you need to think about your audience. Who's your reader going to be? If your reader is going to be non-native speakers of English, and you really, to be honest, do not know what their levels are, so they could range from intermediate to advanced or maybe lower, then you don't want to be so complicated that they don't understand what you're saying. So, you know, think about that. It's all about them. As I always say to people, it is not about you. So even when I write, you know, I'm constantly thinking, am I making myself clear enough? Or am I making assumptions about my reader that I shouldn't be doing? You know, am I making an assumption that they are of a higher level? Do they understand my sector? Will they understand what I'm talking about? So again, there are lots of things that you need to keep thinking. So whenever you're writing, think about that. What am I trying to say? What is the outcome I want? You know, if there's a call to action, if you're asking your reader to take action, make sure it's super clear so they know at the end, oh, she wants me to do this. Sometimes it isn't. I know that sometimes I've written things and I haven't got the response I wanted from my reader, and I'm thinking, what went wrong there? So I experiment. Another time I'll try something different. And, you know, then I'll get maybe the reaction. Now, what you want always is it's experimenting, and it is trial and error. And in business writing, that's the only thing we're going to do is to just keep get better and better with our writing. And you can do it at whatever level, I promise you. I have some lower level clients, although I don't normally teach them, but where they will say, you know, Shanti, I have very simple structures. Good. Even with a simple structure, you can still make your point clear, you know. And you might be a very articulate writer in your own language. And as I mentioned before, in Italian, in French, there is a very different way of writing. Writing styles in those languages tend to be more academic. We like to use a lot of maybe more complex language. We like long sentences. But the thing is, the trouble is, it doesn't translate well into English. I've seen this time and time again with my clients. And what I end up having to do is, you've got to think in English. You've got to think about your reader. There's a different style in English. So that's why it's so important for you to read English publications related to your work, so that you can see the style they're using. It is much more straightforward. It is less complicated. And by doing that, you end up with fewer sentences, shorter sentences. Doesn't mean they're simple sentences. It can still be complex sentences. But they're sentences that are shorter and that are clearer. But you need to see what they're doing, how we create them. We use punctuation also in a different way. So it is, you know, a totally different way of thinking. So you need to move away from thinking in your own language, because also I've had, and some of you will know, some of my clients will say, you know, but I'm so used to being so articulate in my language and writing in a certain way that I feel so inadequate when I'm writing in English. But here's the thing, when I see other languages, written language in foreign languages, I find it's very, very ornate, very complex. And business writing in English is not like that. So I think, no, you don't need to do that. You don't have to emulate, copy how you write in your own language. You need to find a different style. You need to try a different way to write. And so that's why writing, and then also reading out what you write to also make sure that your message is super clear. So there are different ways, right? You're writing different emails. Maybe it's instructing someone. Maybe you're writing a set of procedures. So therefore, there's a certain style that you need to follow. Yeah, making it all very clear. Again, it's clarity, conciseness, straight to the point, keep it direct, make your points clear right at the beginning so that your reader can follow. I hope I've given you some food for thought. I found this article really helpful. If you want, please read the article again. It's in the Facebook page, and it's a great way now of great tips that Harvard Business Review shared. There are also lots of other articles they've got. In fact, I'm going to be sharing more and more, and this will be in the EWAT club. So for all of you who have just walked into this lesson halfway through, just to remind you that this is going to be the last live lesson here on the English with a Twist page. I will be moving the live lesson over to the EWAT club, which is the brand new Facebook group I have just launched. And if you want, I really recommend you join it. That is where I am going to be building a much more meaningful conversation through that community, where we will be sharing ideas, conversations, and challenges. I'll be asking you questions through polls. I want you to really interact much more into that group, and I'll be moving the live lesson into the EWAT club. So if you've enjoyed watching Wednesdays with EWAT and you want to be involved in live, then please do join the EWAT club. I will add the link to the EWAT club in the show notes for this class. So yeah, Susan, thank you so much for your point. You're saying here's a very important point to keep it clear and simple. Yeah, clear, simple, and concise, as I say with business writing. So as I said to you, April's theme is all about business writing, and I will be sharing a lot more thoughts about this. The next post coming out for the weekly lesson on Friday, which will be going out to all the email subscribers, is going to be looking at how you can write with impact. So I'm developing today's lesson into that blog post, and that's already prepared, and I can't wait to share that with you, and that will also be with your audio blog. So for those of you who are already subscribed, I hope you enjoy that weekly lesson and that you can share with me also your thoughts. The challenges I'll be sharing with you in the EWAT club will be also to challenge you to put all these ideas, these tips into practice, because none of this works without you actually practicing what you learn. I don't want you to just be absorbing knowledge. You need to put it into practice. You know, it's like when, for example, someone tells you how to use a new piece of software, or how to use, mainly software, right? You set up something and they go, right, this is the software. And someone shows it to you. You just look at the video or something, you think, yeah, great. But until you start using a system, you just do not know how it works. Yeah, you never really learn properly. You never master it. It's exactly the same thing as speaking in English, writing in English, reading, using that English, reproducing the English, that passive knowledge you take by, with reading and listening. How do you reproduce it all? That's the only way you're going to learn. And so you need to keep doing that. For example, I've just signed up to an onboarding process that I need for a client relationship management system. It's called the Dupsado community. And I have to say, I haven't quite worked out how to use it yet. I signed up to it, and then I took one look at it and I thought, oh my goodness, that is going to be so scary to do, but I know I've got to do it, and I've got to earmark the time, put it aside, and gradually go little by little and work it through. And I know that once I've done it, I will know how to work it. Yeah, you can outsource it, you can get someone else to do it, but I need to know how to do it. Now, of course, nobody can help you to write. Nobody can write for you. Only you can do it. So it's down to you. I can give you all the tips in the world, but now I want to encourage you to put it into practice. I'm here through the EWAT Club to encourage you, to help you. And so I will be developing challenges along the way. And I also want you to share with me what you want to learn. And but I don't want you to be passive. But if you're shy, you're not too sure, join the club anyway. Watch what everyone's doing. Listen to the conversations. And gradually in time, when you feel confident, you're ready for it, then join the conversation. Hi, Gabi. Lovely to see you. Gabi from Buenos Aires. Gabi, I'm looking forward to seeing you on the EWAT Club. I will be sharing that with you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, wow, for the first time ever, I'm early. And I'm going to end today's class, really. So this is lesson 61 of Wednesdays with the EWAT, where we were looking at how to improve your business writing. And we were looking at the article from the Harvard Business Review that I shared here on the page yesterday. And we broke down on what you need to do to develop your skills as an effective business writer in English. So let me summarize the points that they raised. Here we looked at, they said that you need to think before you write. Very, very important. Don't start writing as you're thinking, because your language, your writing will be very, very cluttered. It won't have structure, and it will also be repetitive. Be direct. Be direct meaning get straight to your point. Yes, don't bury your main message in the middle of what you're trying to say. This is not academic writing. You need to be focused. Save your reader time. Get them to know exactly what you're trying to say. Cut the fat. Be concise. Use fewer words. Don't use 3 words when you can use 1. I still have that problem. Don't be, the more verbose you are, the less people are going to read you. You know, our attention spans these days is very short. You need to keep people's interest, focused. So keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it concise, but super clear, always clear. So that's why your structure, you need structure and you need flow. Use the active voice, use active verbs. Don't use so many noun phrases, use verb phrases. You'll see a lot more there. Use contractions, right? Although people always think, oh no, I shouldn't. I have to say I am, we are. No, contract. Don't worry about not using contractions. Avoid jargon where you can. Keep thinking of your reader. If your reader's not going to understand that jargon, drop it. And if you don't know how to use the jargon correctly, please don't use it. Read what you write. Super important. I found that helps me hugely. When I write something, I read it out loud. And I've been amazed by how many gaps I find, mistakes I make, or something just doesn't flow. And I'm thinking, what did I try to say? What am I trying to say there? So I go back and I start making changes to my writing, and then I read it out again. Very, very important. Get feedback from your co-workers or colleagues or a mentor or coach who you respect, who you whose writing you like. And if you do that, then ask them for feedback on your writing. Follow them, look at their writing, analyze their writing. Yeah, so just monitor that. Look at what they're doing, focus and see and try and mimic what they do. So this takes us to practicing. Put all this, practice this. A skill is only perfected with practice. So practice every day, practice every other day. But look at well-written posts, look at well-written articles, focus on what they use, try and follow what they do, and then try and write something. Again, getting feedback if you need that feedback from co-workers, colleagues, friends. And don't be worried about what they say, but what you want them to be looking at is your structure, your flow, not necessarily just your language, your grammar or your spelling, because you have things like a wonderful resource which I'll be sharing with you in the show notes, Grammarly Grammar Checker, that can do a lot of that work for you. And Use a monolingual dictionary. I will never ever, always, don't just use a dual dictionary, monolingual. And keep challenging yourself. Put everything into practice. Don't be afraid. Start, get into a habit, a routine. Start, and then it becomes a habit. Develop a writing habit. You know, so if you're focused on business writing, then do that. Try and develop it. Focus on what, you know, look at good writing, mimic it, do it, and gradually build. But, you know, so slowly and surely you will develop your writing. It takes a long time, believe you me. It's taken me, and most people do. It takes them a long time to develop good writing, but it can be done. So you have to have faith in yourself and get outside your comfort zone and do it and try it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for joining me. I didn't see a lot of conversation here, but I'm hoping you were listening and that it resonated with you. Now, next week, English with a Twist is taking another break. I know, I'm full of breaks. Actually, I'm attending the International Association of English Teachers as a Foreign English as a Foreign Language Teachers, the IATEFL conference, which is an annual conference that's held in the UK. So next week I'll actually be in Brighton, so I won't be able to have this session, but I'm looking forward to getting a lot of feedback and sharing lots of ideas with my fellow teachers to then bring back and write, you know, some more content and to share with yourselves. So I won't be around, but the next session will be on the 18th of April, where we will continue with the theme of writing, and I'm going to be sharing with you more tips. As I mentioned to you, if you want to continue following me live, then Keiko, Gabi, everybody else, everyone else, please join me in the EWAT Club, because from the 18th of April, the live lessons are moving into the EWAT Club. You will still get a recording of these lessons on the Facebook page, but the live lessons will all go onto the EWAT Club. So make sure, I will share the link to join the EWAT Club. I really look forward to seeing you there, because the EWAT Club is going to offer you so much more than what the page does, because that's where I want to develop this community. You've been fantastic for such a long time, and I want to help you grow and develop through that community. So I can't wait to see you in the EWAT Club. Path, I hope to see you there. Keiko, I hope to see you there. Gabi, I hope to see you too. Now let me see, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone out. Susan, I hope to see you. Even fellow teachers I've got in that club, because I want my fellow teachers to be my collaborators, to help foster good English and you know, and encourage people to work well. So I hope to see you all on the 18th of April. But in the meantime, this is me, Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, at English with a Twist, here, your business English coach, saying ciao for now. Have a wonderful week. Start working on that journal. Start working on that writing. Keep writing. Keep focusing on your English. Keep trying. Without you trying, it's not going to happen. So Maria, I hope I see you on the EWAT Club too. I really look forward to it, guys. Please join. I'll send the link soon after this class. Ciao for now. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for listening. See you on the 18th of April. Ciao for now, everyone. Take care.